It was a cold, grey morning, the kind where even the wind felt like it carried stories of pain. The city was waking up, but not everyone had a reason to. A little girl, no older than 9, stood outside a small bakery, her clothes worn, her hair tangled, and her eyes, deep, desperate, and far too old for her age, fixed on the glass display filled with cakes. Her tiny hands were pressed together in front of her chest, trembling not just from the cold, but from hunger. She looked up at the woman behind the counter and whispered in a voice so fragile it could break your heart, "Do you have any expired cake?" Before the woman could even respond, the doorbell jingled and a man in a navy blue suit walked in, confident, sharp, and seemingly untouchable. A billionaire in every sense, his life was a fortress built from success, deals, and isolation. But what he saw that morning, that small girl begging for something expired, would be the moment that shattered his world of silence. If you believe kindness can change a life, take a second to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support helps spread hope and second chances. The woman at the counter, tired and impatient, sighed. It had been a long day already, and she had dealt with her share of people asking for discounts, returns, and sometimes free samples. But this felt different. The little girl's lips were pale, and she looked like she hadn't eaten in days. Still, the worker hesitated. Rules were rules. The bakery didn't give away food for free, especially not to strangers. She shook her head slightly and muttered that there were no expired cakes. The girl nodded, trying to hide her disappointment. Her eyes still locked on a small chocolate cake that seemed to whisper her name. She turned to leave, wiping her tears with the back of her hand. But behind her, the man in the blue suit, the billionaire, didn't move. He couldn't. Something in him froze. He had seen hunger before, on TV, in documentaries. In charity events he attended for publicity, but never this close. Not like this. This wasn't a story, it was real. It was breathing. It was standing right in front of him, asking for something thrown away. He felt a strange weight in his chest, one he hadn't felt in years. As the girl pushed the door open, he found himself following her. He didn't know why. It wasn't pity. It was something deeper, something that clawed at the parts of him he'd buried long ago. Outside, the wind whipped around her frail body as she wrapped her thin arms around herself and sat near the sidewalk. She pulled out a small cloth bag, empty except for a few coins and a crumpled photo of a woman. He walked up slowly and crouched beside her, his polished shoes touching the edge of her world. He didn't speak for a moment, just looked at her, at the innocence mixed with exhaustion. She looked up, startled but too tired to be afraid. He gently asked her name. She hesitated, then whispered, "Lily." He smiled faintly and asked where her parents were. Her lips trembled as she pointed at the photo, a woman with the same eyes, smiling brightly. "She's my mom," Lily said softly. "She got sick, and now she's in heaven." Her voice cracked, and she looked down. "I'm just hungry. I don't want to steal. I just wanted something old, something nobody wanted." That line pierced through him like a knife. Something nobody wanted. For a moment his mind flashed back to a small apartment years ago, when he was the boy who went to bed hungry, when his mother used to pretend she'd already eaten just to make sure he had his share. He had promised himself he'd never be poor again, and he wasn't. But somewhere along the way he'd become poorer in heart than ever before. Without another word, he stood and walked back into the bakery. The woman behind the counter looked surprised to see him return. He didn't say much. He simply pointed at every cake, every pastry, and said in a firm voice, "Pack everything. Fresh. All of it." The woman blinked in disbelief. "All of it?" He nodded. "All of it." Minutes later he walked out with 2 large boxes filled with cakes, tarts, and bread. He knelt beside Lily again and smiled softly. "I don't know if any of these are expired," he said, his voice gentle, "but they're all yours." Her eyes widened, first in shock, then disbelief, then overwhelming gratitude. She covered her mouth with her hands as tears streamed down her face. She whispered, "Thank you," again and again, clutching the boxes like treasures, and as she did, something shifted inside him. Something warm, something forgotten. He sat beside her on the curb, despite his expensive suit, despite the curious stares from passers-by. They shared a slice of cake right there. One fork, two people, one moment that erased the distance between their worlds. For the first time in years, the billionaire laughed. A real, unguarded laugh that surprised even him. As they ate, Lily told him stories about her mother, how she used to bake little cupcakes for her birthdays, how she always said, even one kind person can change a hard day. She said it like a prayer, like something sacred. The man's eyes grew wet as he listened. That night, when he went home to his glass mansion with its cold, echoing halls, he couldn't sleep. He kept seeing her, the way she'd looked at that cake, the way she'd smiled despite everything. He realized how empty his life had become, all the success, all the money, and yet he had nothing that made him feel. The next morning, he made a decision that would change his life forever. He returned to that same bakery, not as a customer, but as an owner. He quietly purchased the place and called the manager. From today, he said, no one leaves hungry, ever. Then he went searching for Lily. It took days, but when he finally found her sleeping near a church, wrapped in a thin blanket, he gently woke her. She blinked up at him in confusion, then smiled faintly when she recognized him. He held out his hand and said softly, "Come with me. You never have to beg again." That was the start of something beautiful. He didn't just give her food, he gave her a home, an education, and a future. He became her guardian, her family. The bakery became their shared dream, Lily's cakes. Every night before closing, they gave away the remaining pastries to those in need. The sign outside read, "No one should ever go to bed hungry." The bakery became a place of kindness, hope, and second chances. People came not just for cakes, but for the warmth they felt inside. The billionaire, once known for his power, became known for his heart. And every morning, Lily would greet customers with the same smile her mother once had. Years later, when reporters asked him why he changed his life, he smiled and said, "Because one little girl reminded me that love isn't expired." If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe. Your support helps us bring more true stories of kindness and hope to life. Before you go, tell us in the comments, would you have helped Lily if you were there that day? Your answer might inspire someone else to choose kindness. And as the sun set over the city, the lights of Lily's cakes glowed softly through the window. Proof that sometimes one small act of compassion can sweeten even the bitterest of lives.